I just bought this 1999 Yamaha Warrior 350 about a week or so ago, and I paid $400 for it. And there's plenty of reasons as to why it was $400, but either way, it was still a pretty good deal in my opinion. That's why I bought it. When I first got it, I knew it needed a head gasket, and it has this Chinese carb on it that the guy said didn't run that good. So I put a head gasket in it a couple days ago, and then I went to start it, and the one-way gear was bad. So the starter would turn over, but the engine wouldn't turn over. It'd turn over a little bit, like whenever it would catch, but it was bad. So I took it all apart, and I'll show you guys. You can see the one-way gear here is all just a bunch of metal dust and stuff, and it doesn't work. Obviously, there's something wrong with it. So I ordered a new one. That came in today, so we're going to throw that on and then see if this thing will fire up. Pretty excited. Let's check out this new one. Let's see. Alright, so this new one looks similar. Hopefully the same. It's actually a little bit, it's not as deep, which hopefully isn't an issue. We're still going to put it together and see. Hopefully everything works. Yeah, because if you guys look, this one sits out a little bit further, but I don't know if it's supposed to. Maybe it's like, it looks like it's pushed out compared to this one. So I think that's part of the reason that this one's no good. But I don't know. That's what I'm hoping, at least, because you look at, yeah, there's a gap on this one's got a gap here, and there's no gap here. So I think this one slid out for whatever reason. That's what I'm gonna tell myself, at least. So we gotta put this there, line these up, and then we're not gonna reuse these old bolts because it came with new ones. The magnets steal my bolt. Actually, you know what? We should put Loctite on these just because I don't want to have to worry about this coming apart. Alright, so we're going to use a little bit of medium strength thread locker on all of these. Just a little bit. Awesome. Okay, so according to the quick Google search I just did, torque on these is 13 to 15 foot-pounds, so we're going to do that. Alright, so now we just got to reinstall this. We got the new one-way gear on. Now you got to make sure you line up the Woodruff key with the groove in this thing right here, with the key right here. Make sure that doesn't fall out. Now, I would usually replace this Okay, we're replacing the gasket. Never mind. I was gonna say I wasn't gonna because it looked decent, but it's actually pretty horrible. So, all right, we scraped the old gasket off. I got the new gasket on here. So now we just got to slide this guy on. And then this goes in here. Well, that seal's ripped. Well, this is all we got for now, so put that there. That bolt in. Alright, so we got the one-way gear in, so now I'm going to throw the battery in, and we're going to try and crank it, and hopefully it fires up. I know the start button does not work, so I have to jump it at the solenoid. I'm hoping it has spark. I'm hoping it runs. So I'm going to throw the battery in and we'll try it. fired up pretty quick, but something's clacking around pretty good in there. I didn't check the valves. I thought about it. I was saying I should check the valves. I didn't. Whenever I did the head gasket, and there was a lot of other questionable things that I saw while I was in there. So I should have checked the valves, but we're gonna do that now because it sounds like they're almost like the adjuster's not even in there or something. Because that's clacking around really loud. I didn't see anything that looked horrible in there, but I didn't check the valves, like I said. So we're gonna do that. This cover yanked off. This removed. Yeah, whenever I took this head off, inside of here there is the chain guide that the cam chain rides on, and it was on the inside, not in the little groove where it belongs, like where it is now. It was in here. So removing the cam gear and chain was super tight because it was all crammed in there. I don't even know how the guy put it together like that, because it was so jammed in there. But I got it together correct now. So the chain's, it's pretty tight. So I don't know. We're going to turn it to top dead center, pop these valve caps off, and then see what looks like. Lined up with the T there, and then that groove, this groove here is lined up with this right there. All right, so we got this valve cap off, and it's at top dead center, and there's little to no movement at all on the intake side. So I'm hoping we pull the exhaust side off and it's really bad, like really loose, because I don't know what else could have been making all that noise. Let's get this exhaust side popped off and we'll see. All right, that one's pretty loose. So that's a decent sign, I guess. All right, so the exhaust side felt pretty loose. The intake side was pretty tight. I'm going to look up whatever the spec is and check them with the feeler gauge, and hopefully, I don't remember the exhaust having that much slop in it. It shouldn't be that loose. All right, so both the valves, intake and exhaust, were a decent bit out of whack. So I'm hoping that because those were loose, and that's the reason it was making all that noise. We're gonna find out. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna crank it up, and hopefully it sounds less noisy. These are usually fairly noisy motors, but that was a lot of noise they were making. It sounded like it was coming from the top end. Nothing looked bad in there. So crank it up and see. Alright, so we got it running after adjusting the valves, and it's still pretty noisy. But what I'm thinking, the guy I got it from, for whatever reason, they couldn't get the exhaust off here, so their good solution was sawzall it and then wrap it with this stuff to fix it. So it's got a huge exhaust leak right there. So I'm thinking that, we're hearing all kinds of noise, but it could be the exhaust leaking past that, which I know that's making noise. So first thing, I'm going to weld that up, or I'm going to take it off, see what it looks like, and then I'm going to weld it up, hopefully. And I think that should take care of a lot of our noise, because the top end, everything's tight, everything looked good. I can't figure what else it would be, so I'm really thinking it's got a bad exhaust leak there. I know I can feel it. I can feel the air blowing out. I'm going to pull this off and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so as we can see, they sawed that clean off. So obviously it leaks. I'm gonna try and get this piece separated, and then I guess hopefully I can butt them up to where it looks like where it should be, and then weld it back together. All right, nice. That clamp's good. We're gonna pull this whole muffler off, which I think is just this. Yes, that was the only bolt holding the muffler on. And now we're moving. Just like that. See, those people didn't have to cut it. They could have just heated it up a little bit and I bet with the muffler on it, you could have just twisted the muffler and it would have came right off with a little bit of heat. But now we get to fix it, so. All right, I got the exhaust all prepped up. I got the area clean. So I'm gonna throw a quick tack weld on here. I'm gonna throw one up there, probably one down there. Then we'll pull it off, solid weld it, and then we'll be leak free, hopefully. Alright, we got enough welds on there to hold it together, so now we're going to slide this whole thing off and then weld it all the way around. Alright, got it all welded up. It doesn't look the greatest, but I'm no professional. Shouldn't leak though. I'm going to grind it down, make it look pretty decent, and then we'll slap it back on. I got the exhaust all welded up and I ground it down so you can't really tell. I mean, you can kind of tell, but it looks pretty good. A lot better than it was with the clamp on it. So now we're going to try and fire it up. I'm hoping that exhaust leak was the main culprit for all the weird noise we were hearing, because if it's leaking out both ways around that clamp that they had on there, I feel like it's going to make a lot of weird noises. So we're going to fire it up and see what it sounds like. Quad still sounds horrible. I'm not sure what's making all that noise in there. It just shut off and now it won't start again. I took the plug out. You can see it looks pretty horrible. So I'm going to double check and make sure we still have spark. I'm not sure if it just cut off and then wouldn't start again. So we're going to check for spark and then we'll go from there. Alright, I'm going to crank it over and we'll see if we have spark. I got T on, switch on. Alright, so we do have spark. Okay, we're going to try and do a compression test. I got the throttle wedged wide open. And we're going to look at this and crank it over. Alright, so that looks pretty good. That's actually right about where it's supposed to be. Alright, so obviously the motor's still making quite a bit of noise. It does run, I'm not sure. It shut off for a minute there, but it fired back up. But it's still making plenty of noise. I'm not too sure exactly what I want to do there. I'm going to probably check the time again, check the valves, make sure everything's tight, make sure... I didn't check the cam or anything whenever I had the head off because it's kind of a pain in the butt to pull out of there. But I might end up doing that. I don't feel like it right now, so we're going to tackle a couple other things on here. Now we're going to tackle making this all look decent. Like, that's totally loose. That's nice. I have a new solenoid I got that came with the new key switch, or the new handlebar switch that I ordered. So far I've removed all this. A lot of the random wires are melted together. Stuff I just trimmed out and made the connections shorter and whatnot. And I got all this tied up, looking a lot better. I got all this wrapped with new electrical tape, new starter solenoid in. I got a few more things I got to hook up, but it's looking pretty good so far. I got it wrapped all the way to here. And I haven't done anything up there yet, but I just installed my new ground cable. I'm gonna put the plastics back in and see what kind of length I need to where it's gonna connect to the battery. But get those crimped or soldered and heat shrinked. And there was another ground that they had coming out of the harness, that green wire right there. They had that coming out of the harness, and that went to the battery. And I hate that. It looks horrible and it doesn't work good, because then you got to hook up multiple things on the terminal on the battery. So I trimmed it way back and I ran it the other way in the harness and retaped it. And now that's going to connect right there on top of the motor with the ground on this side that goes to the battery. And then, yeah, so now I'm going to put the plastics in, trim this where it's supposed to be, and then I'm going to make the new positive side, because this one's pretty chewed up. Like, doesn't look that good. So I got new wire for this. I'm going to make new from here to the battery. And then I'm going to replace, this is the wire that went from the starter to the battery. And it's not bad, but there's a few spots like right here that's a little bit melted. So I got wire, I'm gonna replace it. And that way it'll all be nice and it'll all work really good. See, I got all this taped up. I taped it all the way to this, there. A lot cleaner, a lot nicer. I still gotta do the front, but like I said, I'm gonna get the battery cables hooked up first. All right, all the new cables are in. New positive cable, new negative cable. I got the negative grounded on the motor here. The positive, I got brand new going to the solenoid, and then I got from the solenoid all the way, you can see, this is that new orange wire all the way to the starter. All the way down there. So now this thing has nicer battery cables than anything I own, which is pretty funny, but it's nice. This thing's gonna crank up really good, and it's pretty cool actually. After doing that, I fixed a bunch of stuff in the harness like I showed you guys, and now, before this didn't, when I turned the key on, okay, well the neutral light did work. Not sure. I don't know what happened there. Okay. I don't know, it turned off. I haven't touched none of those wires up there yet, which I'm gonna do right after I finish recording this little bit. But now, when I hit this, it actually cranks. Before it just clicked, it didn't crank. I did change out the starter solenoid, so it might have been the solenoid or one of the messed up parts in the wiring harness that I fixed, but it's nice, it cranks now. I'm gonna tear this all apart, make this look nicer, because that doesn't look good. And then tape all this up and fix anything that needs to be fixed in there. But it's coming along really good. I got pretty much all of the engine harness fixed properly. Except for the front part, like I said. Once that's done, we'll be digging in and doing something else on here. I'm not sure yet. All right, so I got all this wiring fixed up. I took it all apart, taped it up. I added a connector here, so now we can unplug this. I got the connector for the key switch. I got the headlight wires taped up, and then I got the neutral and reverse light wire taped up. All this looks a lot better. I cut out a bunch of junk that didn't need to be in there and shortened some stuff that didn't need to be as long as it was, and that's all set now. So now I just got all the wiring fixed, and I was looking at this thing on the head, and I did some reading online, and I found out that there's this screw right here, and that's the oil prime screw. You take that out, and whenever you crank it, oil should come out, and then that's how you know the top end's primed. And, well, anyways, I took that screw out, and I cranked it, nothing, so I figured I'd start it. I started it, and nothing. So that's probably part of my top end noise, that having, you know, the top end's not getting no oil, obviously. So we're gonna pull the head off, which I had to do anyways because I ordered a cam chain for it because I figured that was what was making the noise. But if the top end's not getting no oil, that's gonna be what's making the noise. So we're gonna take that off, inspect it all, make sure, you know, try and figure out why the oil's not going out there, and I'm gonna pull the cam out and see how the bearings look, because it sounds pretty choppy. It could be the cam worn out or the cam bearings worn out. So I'm gonna get into. I think I'm gonna pull the engine out because it'd just be easier. So I'm gonna get to doing that. You guys will see. All right, so I've got pulling the motor on one of these figured out pretty good. I've done it so many times. My rear plastics are pretty much, actually they are disconnected, so we're just gonna get those out of the way. You don't really have to do that, but since I had no bolts in there, it's easy enough to do that. Same with the air box, it's just sitting there, so we'll take that out. And then just start disassembling stuff. First thing, I like to take this side foot peg off because when the engine comes out, it's in the way. So this has all got to come off, and the engine will come out this way. First, I remove this part. Alright, the exhaust is really simple, just this clamp, which I've already had off because I already had the exhaust off. And then we'll just take the muffler all the way off. So we'll pull this off. Alright, we got the muffler off. Now we just gotta pull these two 10mm nuts off of the head. Gotta make sure to drop both the nuts on the ground, and hopefully they'll roll away and we'll never find them ever again. So that's good. Alright, got the exhaust off. We'll go ahead and pull the clutch off right here. Oh, nice. It's already loose. Alright, that's off. Then pull the cable off the battery here, which I just put on earlier today whenever I put my new battery cable, so this should come right out. Now we can, we'll just disconnect the reverse thing from here. Well, I could just take it off there. Yeah, we'll just take this off. That'll be easier. Unplug this, and then pull these two. We got all that one done. Now we'll go to the other side. Side's pretty simple. We'll pull neutral wire off. Dang. Nope, we're all good. We're all good. Neutral wire off. Then we'll unplug this wire up here. We'll unplug this here. And then we'll You guys can't even see what I'm doing. There's a couple connectors right in here. I unplugged this one, and there's another connector in here. I'll unplug this one. That's for the reverse light. It's this plug right here. And then we got one more on the inside there. That's it. Alright, so we got the engine disconnected from the harness. The carburetor we can get out of the way as well. I unhooked this, or I unbolted it earlier, obviously. But this carburetor is junk. It's a Chinese one, and it's never going to run good because Chinese ones don't. So I'm going to unhook this and throw it away. I already got an OEM one. I got this cover off. Oops. And then I'm going to disconnect the cable here. Now the cable's nicely frayed, so it poked me in the finger. And make sure not to lose this piece. So now, ow! Poked me in the finger again. Very nicely frayed, so that feels wonderful. All right, carburetor's off. And now I'm gonna pop this master link off. I don't think this is gonna be in my way, but I'm gonna take it off just in case. This is the bracket that holds on the front fenders. It holds on the lower part of the front fenders. It's only two 10mm bolts. It's easy enough to take off, and that way I don't have to worry about fighting, getting the motor around it whenever I'm trying to pull it out, because this motor's pretty heavy. Alright, I think all we have left are the engine mounts now, so we're going to get these buzzed out and then pull the motor. Alright, so I believe I've got everything unhooked on the motor that needs to be unhooked. I'm going to go and find somebody to help me pull this out because it's pretty heavy and tough to pull it by yourself. I can do it, but it's so much easier with help. So, yeah, I'm going to go find somebody to get it out with me, and we're going to yank it out and then start tearing into it. Change of plans. I'm going to yank this thing out by myself. Shouldn't be that hard. Guess we'll see. Easy. Now I'm going to put it on the bench. Ugh. This motor it's heavy. Alright. Motor's out. This frame is actually like really clean. It's crazy. Surprising, you know. Now I'm gonna, well, honestly, it's late. I'm tired. I've been working on this thing all day long, just doing my wiring and everything. I think I'm gonna call it here. I gotta order parts and stuff anyways. Yeah. Get back into tearing into it some more tomorrow. I'm gonna clean up a little bit, but that's it. I'm probably trying to edit this video and upload this part and then finish up the second half. I don't want to do more than 2 parts because that's lame. I hate waiting for people to upload. I want to just watch it all, you know, so I'm gonna try and do that all this. This will be part 1, and then we'll do another part.